When people at Notre Dame want to hang out, chill out, or geek out, they go to the quad.
When they want to play, pray, or just get away, they go to the quad.
The quad's a place to talk about important ideas with good friends.
And that's what we do here on the Pod Quad Show. We're two Holy Cross priests and friends having curiosity conversations with interesting people. Talking about life. Pod Quad Nation, I am Father Pete McCormick, and this is
Father Nate Wills. We're so excited for our first episode of our new podcast, The Pod Quad.
Pod Quad. Do you want to talk a little bit about the name of the Pod Quad? How did it come about?
Yeah, the Pod Quad. We were talking about what really defines a Notre Dame student experience, right? And you always talk about what's your major, what's your dorm, and people define themselves by their quad, right? Like which dining hall they go to and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to have a place where we could talk about all the things that matter to us, to Notre Dame students. And we thought, we want to create our own quad, the Pod Quad.
So officially, welcome to this quad. There's a lot going on here. We're going to have some amazing people who are going to come along. Nate and I have really wanted to be able to do this for some time. And It's so exciting to be able to be a part of it and to have you all along with it. Now, to get us started today, we're going to talk about a really important theme, one that unifies us all, and that is friendship. Nate, you want to talk a little bit about our guest today who will be dropping some wisdom?
Yeah, we're super excited about our great friend, April Garcia, coming to speak to us about friendship. She's a great friend of ours, somebody who I think really embodies friendship. And when we were talking about thinking about, friendship and the whole topic, she came to mind right away as somebody who maintains beautiful friendships, is really thoughtful about the friendships that she has, and would just have a lot to teach us about that.
So without further ado, I say we get into it, start talking a little bit with April about the great topic, important topic, essential topic of friendship.
Well, welcome back. We're so grateful to be here with April Garcia. April, thanks so much for being here on the Pod Quad.
You're so welcome. Excited to be here.
Fantastic. So I'm going to give a little intro. Little intro for April Garcia. So April is a Texas native, did her undergrad at Notre Dame in business administration. And after graduation, she went on to teach in the Alliance for Catholic Education, taught in San Antonio, and then moved to LA to teach at Mother of Sorrows. And when she decided to pursue yet another master's degree in the Marianne Remick Leadership Program.
Let's go.
She was one of the founding directors, or was the founding director of Onward Readers, a toddler through middle school literacy initiative, and now serves as a faculty member, my colleague, at the Marianne Remick Leadership Program, and is currently pursuing her doctorate in education through USC. It's fine. With a focus on educational leadership and K-12 leadership in urban school settings. April Garcia, welcome.
Thank you so much. So excited to be here with both of you.
I'm just grateful that you're bringing a little pop of color in between two priests.
Trying. Just being a ray of sunshine, if you will.
So, as you know, the topic is friendship. We're digging into it. So what we wanted just to kind of get started with is how would you describe friendship? What would you use to say if someone walked up to you on the street and said, hey, listen, I'm new to the whole friendship thing. How would you describe it?
So I was thinking about this, or I always think about this. There's a C.S. Lewis quote that says, this idea of you encounter someone and all of a sudden you're like, wait, what? You think that too? I think the exact same thing. Because I think oftentimes with friendship, we think, it might be someone that has a same background or the same experiences. Mm-hmm. And the reality is, I think friendship lies in us just having this one uniquely common whether it's an interest, whether it's something that we're both driven towards. So that's how I generally define it, because I think it's really hard for people to say that, our friends might be people that, journeyed with us for a particular amount of time. Yep. And I just think most often it's wait, I thought that? You think that? Should we be friends? And it can be something really tiny, but I think it also, we should never lose sight of it's just us finding common ground with another human being. That's where the friendship lies.
Right on.
Sure. Yeah.
Right on. That's such a great and helpful reminder of it doesn't need to be this grandiose thing.
Yeah. And I think we like expect these friendship love stories. Uh-huh. And sometimes it's just I met her at the dining hall. We both liked French fries. That's it. And it doesn't, and sometimes we do have these beautiful friendship love stories that it's I remember when I saw them, but other times it's just like a common ground.
So speaking of French fries, are you a ketchup gal or a mayo gal or both?
I would like both in separate little, those little kind of accoutrement bowls.
Oh,
I do love a good accoutrement. And so I want to make sure I can dip one in ketchup with pepper in it. I like to put pepper in my ketchup. And then one in
ketchup.
Yes. Not to be confused with Whataburger spicy ketchup, but that's for another conversation.
Totally.
Totally different conversation.
Later in the pod.
Later in the
ladies and
pod, we'll
gentlemen.
just do a Whataburger episode. Whataburger in and out. What do we know? Yeah.
So, April, one of the most challenging things about friendship is maintaining friendships, right? And so, how do you prioritize and make time for your friends amidst the million other responsibilities that you have in life? And how can we do that?
So, I have a dear friend, Iona, who has this theory, and it's not, I'm sure someone will go and be like, I'm going to Google exactly where this comes from. She has this theory that you can only have and not foster, but you can really only support about 7 friendships at any given time, like deep friendships. This doesn't count family. That doesn't mean you don't love other people and you don't try to foster the relationship with other people. But what I think it does for humans is help us realize, like, I can't put my 100% in 700 people, but I'm going to try my best with these 7 humans. And I have found routines. I have found establishing like where and how are we going to connect. Like I have a friend who I talk to every 2 weeks, except for right now during the glories of a Remick summer. We talk every 2 weeks on Zoom. She's in Los Angeles. Like every 2 weeks, we schedule time, we create an agenda. The agenda will hopefully never be shared outside of our conversation. And that's how we talk. Like that's how we talk. I also have friends where I text often. I have friends gratefully in town that I spend time with. And then I have one friend right now where we're leaning into this voice memo idea. As she said, the younger women in her office taught her about voice memos.
Okay.
So we stopped texting because it's too much information to catch up. But I think it's like thinking, one, I can't be best friends with everyone. And I'm not a person who's ever said, like, you're my bestie. Although maybe we can be besties after this. I don't know.
Okay.
But
is there an application?
There might be. I imagine an interview. Do we just become friends? But I think it's a matter of, like, how when you foster time, like, you don't have to do it the same way with every single one of your friends. And I think it's maintaining that and being honest with yourself that I'd rather have thoughtful friendships and many acquaintances than have a lot of surface level relationship.
Well
That's
said.
how I feel.
Well said.
So you're knocking on the door of my question, which is there's an ebb and flow to relationships. I mean, there's seasons of life.
I love that phrase, by the way.
When you think about the ebb and flow, the in between, the up and down of friendships, how do you make sense of it? Because I could imagine people would feel all types of guilt. Like, you happen to be walking down the street and you see this person that, oh my gosh.
We used to be best friends.
Yeah. And now I'm like hoping that person doesn't see me. And maybe I'm even thinking about crossing to the other side.
Right.
So how have you navigated that?
Yeah, I think it's in particular, and I appreciate the phrase so much about a season of life. I think for all humans, we all go through just ebbs and flows of, I'm here, I'm there. I've lived in really for extensive periods of time in 3 different places. Yep. I think also recognizing how the dynamics of who you are and your identities, I think women in particular, as they become mothers, who's married, who's not married. And I think embracing that idea of like, this is a new season of life. We might still be friends, but it means negotiating, like, how can I show up for you in a way that I just didn't have to when we were 2 gals in Lions Hall. Like, I need to show up for you in a way that responds to the realities of your life, but also in a way that is authentic and genuine. Because at the end of the day, I still love the you that I first met. And now all the other parts of your identity, it doesn't make me love you less. I think it just like brings a complexity of like who a person is now. But I do think recognizing the season of life ebb and flow, like you have to accept it. And I also have to understand that maybe in this season of life, maybe you're not going to be one of the people that I'm as close to anymore. But there doesn't necessarily need to be like love lost in that regard too. And I hope I don't cross like the street, but I do think that it's when we don't really recognize, like, we're just moving into a new era. It's like we're in a different friendship era. I think that it is. Let's lean into T Swift for a moment. Like, I think it's that, like, I'm just in a different friendship era with you and we have to just name it as such.
Love it.
Yeah.
Makes good sense.
Yeah. Thanks.
It's tricky. That's
super tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think going back to the earlier thing, like there's a lot of guilt and like, did we just break up? And it's like, well, we didn't break up, and we're not on a break. We're just in a different phase of our friendship together.
That takes a lot of maturity, I think, for sure. Okay, so in the Wayback Machine, as a Latina arriving at Notre Dame, what was the significance of forming friendships with people of diverse backgrounds, and how did those friendships affect your experience and your perspective?
Yeah. Shout out Lions Hall. Lyons. Lions is the very best.
That was awesome.
Home
great.
of the
It's great.
Lions.
Lions. I know. Don't get it twisted. It's great to be in front of the arch. So I would say one thing. I didn't realize I was doing it. Like I remember arriving on campus, immediately being like, woo, like it was like the record scratch. I was like, wait, what's going on here? No one looks like me. But I knew that. You knew that coming in. Sure. And it was about 2 weeks into freshman year. And I was sitting in my room with the door open. And these humans across the hall said, hey, you're going to go eat? And I was like, yes, I would like to go eat. I would like sustenance. And I basically just kind of went along with it. Yeah. A few weeks later, first big dorm dance, SYR. And they said, you going? I said, no, not at all. And they said, why not? I said, well, I don't have a date. They're like, we'll find you a date. Shout out to Morrissey Manor. Lovely gentleman. Actually ended up marrying one of my friends.
Hey.
I know. It was wild. I was like, you're welcome. It's great. But I thought to myself, I think in the moment I realized like, one, no one's was not like out to get me.
Yeah.
They actually genuinely cared for me.
Yep.
And I think now looking back on it, I think in the moment I didn't even realize, like I really didn't realize like, oh, I'm forging friendships with humans that have very different backgrounds, whether it was, you know, obviously I would say ethnically different backgrounds, socioeconomically different backgrounds, geographically different backgrounds. I didn't realize it. And I think now as an adult, not that I wasn't an adult then, but like as an adult now, like they took the time to get to know me, but I don't think they ever questioned or they tried to just make sure also I just felt really included.
Nice.
And I think it's that feeling of like belonging, which I think we all want. We all want for everyone. But I think in a dorm space in particular, I think those women showed up for me and quite honestly continue to show up for me in ways that they're one of the text chains. Like they continue to show up for me in ways that I think that are authentic, but also because they really wanted, and they never said it then. Now they'll say it now. I hope they say it now. If they don't, I have to remind them. But like they wanted me to be a part of it.
Yeah.
It was like, no, you shouldn't stay behind. You're going to go sit at the dining hall by yourself? Those awkward tables on the side? No, come to the middle. South dining hall, by the way. But yeah, I think it's that notion of like, they just wanted me to be included. And I think that's what helped me recognize that there was more beyond the world than what I had just experienced in Texas.
Yeah.
In my
It opens up your perspective on the world, right? Like,
completely.
Oh my gosh, not everybody does.
No,
this
or
same
like,
thing.
I can't believe you think that sometimes, but also like, oh, I hadn't even considered that perspective before. That must be really interesting. Can you tell me more about it and why that might be? Yeah, there's like probably a whole case study somewhere in there, but
I love that.
I
love that. And that stance of curiosity with your friends.
Yes, like
really
deep,
important
relentless
too.
curiosity to want to know more about another human, for sure. Yeah.
You know, there was the Gilded Age. I think we live now in the branded age, where everyone wants to have kind of this perfect brand and like there was no issues. Like for instance, in full disclosure, we did 2 takes in the opening. But regardless.
But Instagram would never let you know that.
Would never.
Right.
Ever.
Obviously.
And so what I've found is that with friendship, especially when you're just getting started, you always want to be in the perspective of, I got it all worked out. Don't you worry. I am a perfect product that you are becoming friends with. There are no issues whatsoever. But yet at the same time, if you live in that approach, you're never really going to fully experience the benefit of friendship. So my question is when you're thinking about the vulnerability necessary for friendship, at some point you got to let the guard down and you need to allow another person to fully understand who you are as a person and to allow them to love you for that.
Right.
How have you relied on people in those ways for that type of support?
Yeah, I would say the last couple of weeks, I think have allowed me to witness, there's a tendency in, I think, society to say, like, you need something. It's like, I even whether we're going through grief, change, shift, transition, it's like, is there anything I can do for you? And you're like, I don't know. Like, I'm falling apart here. If I knew, I'd tell you, or I do it myself. And I would say, like, I'm a person who's like I'm a fixer. I'm a problem solver. Got me in a lot of trouble when I was little because I'd be like, and my mom's like, nope, I'm not asking you for your opinion right now. I was like, but if you just, and so I think when it comes to the vulnerability, it's also allowing people to show up for you. And recognizing that love is seen in the way that people show up. Yeah. And for some people, it is hey, you know, I'm going to send you a $5 Starbucks gift card. And I'm just going to text it to you because I remembered you have this really big day today, or today's going to be particularly exhausting. Then there are others that are, you know, this about 2 weeks ago, I just all of a sudden I opened I'm like, what is this? There's these like little cat earrings that one of my friends sent me because she was like, I just feel like you're kind of going through a rough time. I saw these, I thought of you. So I do think that sometimes it's like, I'm going to show up and I'm going to give you something. I also, there's a friend of mine who one time, I think she just like always is really helpful to say like, what do you need? And even like gave out options, like whether it's like, do you want to sit with this for a while? Do you like want a distraction? Do you want to talk it out? Like, and I think it's allowing yourself to say that like, my friend isn't expecting to fix this. And I think that's that modeling that perhaps I should take like more on as myself. Cause I just want to fix it all. I'm like, what do you need? I made you a casserole, you know? And they're like, I didn't ask for a casserole. Like, and it's like, well, I've done all your laundry. It's like, I didn't want you to do my laundry. And I'm like, but I did it. It's okay. I solved all the problems. So I think it's just like allowing yourself to your point. I think it's like lower your bound. Like, it's like, what is that thing that's standing in the way, and like truly being vulnerable, but also letting people show love in the way that they show love.
That's right.
Because I am a person who shows up and says, I'm going to try to not fix it, but I'm like, maybe it is like, maybe I will fold the socks for a while. If that's what you need. If you want me to leave your socks alone, I'll leave them alone too. And I have to be okay with that.
That's exactly right. They just might be in the pile over the corner.
Yes, I've organized them into a pile, but I've not looked at them. I did it with my eyes closed to not allow any more shame in this situation. Yeah. So I was like, were you there when I did that? No. Yeah. It's fine.
April, one of the things that's challenging about friendships is that sometimes you got to have difficult conversations. And you know, this is part of every relationship. Right. You're married. Your husband, Lucas, is awesome. Shout out, Lucas. But in every relationship comes with those difficult conversations. Right. How do you approach those? And like, give us, you know, what I think people often fear going into that difficult conversation. How does that then affect your friendships and relationships?
Yeah, I think one, we often say like, well, come with the receipts, right? Like the facts. Like, I'm going to state to you the facts. The reality is you're in a relationship with this person. Like, I'm going to give you the facts of like, you did this, I did this, this happened. I'm also going to show up and say, you did this is how I felt. I'm not going to say, you made me feel. It's like, this is what happened, this is how I felt about it, this is how I'm responding to it. Like, I think it's just an important way to hopefully clarify that and recognize, going back to, I think to, as Father Pete was asking about like the seasons of life, like sometimes it is just that. Sometimes it is a deep misunderstanding. And then I would argue there are times when that conversation happens. And, you know, I think back, I had a dear friend, and we were good friends in that we really helped each other, particularly at a certain point in our lives. And we kept needing to have that conversation again and again and again. And at a certain point, I vividly recall us like talking, we hashed it out, and I was like, this is it. We're going to be besties like forever. You know, like I'm ready to like tattoo your name here. It's not fair. But what happened is that after that, it just got exhausting. And I think for both of us, it was like, you know, we keep having this conversation. We keep clarifying the facts, the feelings, the facts, the feelings. And it also ultimately ended up being like, you know what, we need to just let this go.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think because we didn't have that closure conversation of like, you know what, this isn't working out. If I were to see that person, I think I would, like, I will honestly say, I'm going to have to, I'm sitting between two priests here. Like, I would honestly probably turn the other way because I was like, I don't know what to say to you. And whatever I say to you right now might come off inauthentic. Oh my gosh, how are you doing? Which I also think is a tendency of nice people, right? Like, we're just like, how are you doing? And we're like, we don't really need to know that. Like, or we don't want to know that actually. So I do think it's like coming in with facts and feelings, being able to shift that, you know, whether it's, are we going to try to keep making this work, or is it time possibly to call it?
Yeah.
And maybe you're going to move into, so there's a song in there, somebody I used to know. Like, you know, like and that's okay. Because we're moving into another phase of our life. Yeah. It's like, you have to let that go. I just think we give so much. I mean, there's books out there and an entire Delilah podcast or, you know, radio station there. Like we have so much we talk about love relationships. And I don't think we give the same attention to the nuances and the intricacies of making friends and keeping friends.
That's right.
For sure. Yeah.
So let's get biblical here for a minute. When you think about, you know, the scriptures, you know, so much is said about the human condition. Do you have a favorite scripture passage that you might go back to from time to time when thinking about friendship in general?
Yeah. So I really set, and this may be just where I'm at, I would say, in life and people recognizing how people see the goodness in me and I want to see the goodness in others. But there's this idea around witnessing and being able to witness both the ups and the downs of other people's lives. And I would say that Jesus's call of the disciples in particular, because it was this idea of like, I'm calling you towards me. And I am a person who actively pursues friends. If I meet you and I like you, I'm going to try to find out if we need to be friends. Like I will, awesome. I will pursue you in a way that you have never been pursued before. And I will find you. And then if it seems like it's not working, I will walk away. But I do think this is idea of like, it's an invitation in to someone's life and to say like, I'm really on fire about this thing. Do you want to come along? What you do? Cool. Come on over. But I'm calling you because I see something in you that you may not even have noticed yet. And more importantly, perhaps I also recognize almost immediately you see something in me that I was ready to say like, no, I don't, you know, like I just think friendships are like, you're hype people, you know, like you're going to see the inherent goodness that I sometimes push aside and try to say like, that's not like, no, it's not, it's not a big deal. I do that. It's like, no, it's a really big deal. And I think the call to disciples of like calling them forth and saying like, you're going to come along with me on this, but you're also going to serve as a witness of the life and the beautiful things that are going to happen. And of course, as we know, you know, like sneak here, but like, you're also going to see the things that are really, really hard too.
Yeah, that's right.
But I want you with me.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do as Jesus does in this regard, right? Like call friends in. No expectation.
No expectation. And that's okay if I pursue you aggressively and you're not, that's okay. We'll find someone else. But like, I do think that no expectation and, you know, whether you're in it, great. And if you're not, that's okay too. But it's like, you're going to be here for all the things that happen in my life. And I want to be here for you too.
That's cool.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. All right, April, final question. This is the question we ask every guest on PodQuad here. What is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given that you can pass along to PodQuad Nation?
Ooh, best piece of advice I've ever received that pass on. Be authentically yourself each and every day. I would say that. But also don't be scared of that person because sometimes you're just like, wait, I have the confidence to do that. I would say to never be scared, to just be your authentic self. Even if you think you're a little silly. We need a little silly in the world. Just a smidge.
Just a splash.
Just a splash. A little sprinkle.
Well, April, thank you.
Oh,
thank you so much for joining us.
Great.
And seriously, so much wisdom to unpack there. Thank you. And
thank you both.
Thanks for jumping on the quad with us. And thanks to everyone for joining us. Nate, how great was April?
Oh, so awesome. She's just great.
Honestly, just like wisdom, just oozing out.
So much energy, so much positivity. Yeah, just really great. We definitely asked the right person to talk about friendship.
100%. 100%. So now we're at this portion of our podcast.
You ready for this?
Yeah, I was born ready for this one. Look, to those who are like have hung along with us all the way to the end of this podcast, is probably just our parents, if we're perfectly honest. We have come up with this way of like just talking a little bit about what excited us or what brought us juice. And so we've got these amazing juices. And so at the end, cheers. Very refreshing. And in fact, there is legitimate apple juice in these. We're not just making it up. But a chance just to reflect on what we've heard, with the hopes that maybe it fosters an opportunity for folks at home or wherever you find yourself, on the road perhaps, just to do a similar reflection. Like what really resonated with you? What brought you juice? And so to that end, Nate, what brought you juice in our conversation with April?
Yeah, there's so much. I love this idea of friendship. I think it's so important. It's been really trivialized in many ways in our modern culture. I was thinking about the time when I helped my mom set up her Facebook account.
Okay.
And she was, she set it up, and I told her, like, you have these friend requests. And she looked at this person. She's like, well, that person's not my friend. I'm like, no, it's different. Like, the friend in the Facebook notion is just kind of a different thing, right? And I think it's really important. I mean, for us as priests, like, friendship is really important.
Very.
And I think it's important to think intentionally about how are you building friendships. To think about the way that April has been really thoughtful and intentional. Yeah. I thought she gave some really practical tips about, like things and ways in which you can kind of meet people where they're at, and really build them up. So I don't know, a lot of that conversation just about the intentionality of friendship, that really brought me juice. I liked that idea that that people express friendship in different ways, and that you can meet them where they're at and allow them to give you what they've got. I also think one of the last things that she said about authenticity was super important.
Right on.
Because I think we can often fall into the trap in friendship thinking like, oh, if that person wants to be friends with me, they want me to be like them.
Yeah.
When in fact it's just the opposite, that people are attracted to people who really know themselves, are comfortable in their own skin, and in doing so, in being confident in who you are,
that's right,
it allows other people to be their authentic selves.
That's exactly right. And just to build on that as an example of the props that we've got on this table, you're a big Star Wars guy, and as is evidenced by my friend Bumblebee right here, I'm more of a Transformers type of guy. So look, friendship can occur in the nerd universe.
The nerdiverse. So what about you? What brought you juice
that
here?
Insight.
What brought you juice in our conversation with April Garcia?
I loved her insight about how it is that Jesus called. Oftentimes people are hesitant, I think, to make that invitation. It's like, well, what happens if they say no? Or what happens if they're not as interested as I am? Jesus makes an authentic invitation. And what an important reminder for all of us, that sometimes people are just on the other end waiting to be invited. Yeah. And what would it look like for us to meaningfully step into that space and to be intentional about the invitation, to recognize that it's a really critical part about friendship, about building community, and all of us in our own way can be a part of that today. We have the ability to send a text, we have the ability to make a phone call, those types of things. And what's the worst thing that happens? You get told no, okay, then maybe you reschedule for the next day. I don't know. But I love that notion of really patterning our lives after Jesus's. So some good stuff that we've got that's kind of floating around there to really bring juice to our lives and maybe those who are listening too.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, that wraps up our first episode of the Pod Quad. I'm so thrilled we did it, and just grateful to be with all of you. Thanks so much for tuning in.
See you around the quad.